Hey everyone, welcome to my van. I'm in a little village at I don't know about little, but I'm in a little town at the south end of the prefecture of Akita. So I traveled out of Niigata and through is it Yamagata, the next one north of Niigata, and then into Akita today. I spent some time just chilling out in Niigata. I went to a coffee shop and did some work. I walked around in the rain a little bit and just along the river where the roadside station was. Then I was sort of on the horns of a dilemma about whether I wanted to really commit to a big drive up to the northern region of Tohoku, to the far north of Honshu Island here, and I decided I was going to go for it. I stopped and had some ramen in Niigata town before I left. Went to a little hole-in-the-wall ramen joint. It was great. They didn't speak a word of English. I had to use my camera translator app on my phone to try and figure out what to order. When I tried to order something, they wouldn't let me, and they pointed at something else, and they said ramen, and I was like, okay, ramen. They're like, ramen, and they brought me ramen. It was really good. So really having a good time exploring the coast here. It has been raining, and I'm not excited about that. It's been very unseasonably warm and rainy. There is a forecast for some snow up in the mountains here in Akita Prefecture, and so I'm a little bit hopeful that I'll hit some snow and get some skiing in. I have the backup of doing some interesting geography. I want to explore the area and take some pictures and document the region with some videos. The problem is that I really ran into a problem trying to get my videos or pictures done today because the weather was so foul. It was just pouring rain all morning, and then in the car, the windshield wipers were on all the way up to where I am now. Now that I'm here, the rain has died down. It was actually done for a little while. It's raining a little bit again now, but it was the first time it hasn't rained all day. It was when I first pulled into this roadside station. So that's been a little bit of a downer. It's okay, but it's been a little bit of a downer. Anyway, I'm in now. I had dinner. This roadside station is quite large. There's a shopping center. There's a tourist information office. There's an onsen. I'm all cleaned up because I went to the onsen on the 4th floor of this big 6-story building that's part of the tourist welcome center. They have good Wi-Fi. It's pretty great. And I got to say that some of the stops I've been at have been really empty, which is a little depressing. This one has truckers staying at, so it's a little more like a truck stop. But I was the only person in the restaurant tonight. I got in at like 7 o'clock. It's about 9 o'clock now, and I went up to the restaurant up on the 3rd floor or 2nd floor of this big building, and there was nobody there, and all the shops were shut down. And I understand it's winter, but still, it's pretty grim, I have to say. So the combination of wintertime plus no snow means that there's just no tourists up here for anything. I don't think that the coronavirus outbreak in China is helping either, because Chinese tourism is a growing part of the Japanese economy. So the fact that coronavirus came up when Chinese New Year was hitting was really bad for a lot of tourist destinations in Japan. Anyway, my experience coming up the coast, I have to tell you, has been really quite interesting, because one of the things that I've known about Japan's development and the ski industry in Japan has been that there was a major economic boom in the 1980s in Japan when lots of companies were making lots of money, lots of people were making lots of money, and people were looking for things to invest in. So real estate seemed like a natural thing, and there was a big boom. I'm going to have a beer because I'm parked, and I can have a beer. It's not a big deal. You have to be careful in Japan because, for a good reason, you should not drink and drive, period, but the legal limit for intoxication for driving under the influence in Japan is 0.03%. So you really can't have a drink and then drive. It's not like no drinking and driving except for a little bit. It's no drinking and driving. But I'm parked. I'm gonna this folds down and turns into a bed, I'm done. So anyway, cheers everybody. So I wanted to tell you all about the coastline of Western Japan here, coming north. So I went basically due west from Tokyo, and then eventually hit the course a little bit north, but ish. And then started going north through Niigata and Yamagata, and now I'm in Akita. And my impression has been one of these ones that was similar to what I've experienced with the ski resorts, which is that you feel like there's been a boom and a bust. So in ski areas, we see that in the form of lots of ski areas that got built but aren't maintained or aren't kept under repair, or even some that have gone bust. So if you travel through rural Japan, through the mountains of Japan, you'll see ski areas that have been shut down and gone away. So they're just the remains of the runs are sort of cut there in the hillside, but the equipment's either mothballed or even taken out. I saw the same thing coming up the coast as well. And so there were hotels that were built on the sides of cliffs or up on the mountain or in the sort of in a cranny in these little seaside towns, and it was clear that they'd been abandoned and they were being overgrown, or they'd been mothballed, and they, the paint was peeling, and there was a gate locked up, and it wasn't like, closed for winter kind of thing. It was like clear that they were like closed for the foreseeable future and probably forever. And all of them have this sort of dated feeling about being built around 30 years ago, around the 1980s economic boom. So it's a really interesting phenomenon to be traveling through that landscape of sort of feeling people's hopes and dreams, and then seeing the boom being represented by the construction of these buildings, and then the bust being represented by the fact that they're dilapidated and getting old and aging. That was really interesting and a little sad, of course, to observe. The other thing that I observed was that these little towns along the way, a lot of them are resource dependent on fishing, and it's interesting, you can head down to the beach. I got out of the car a lot. I tried taking photos and videos, but not a lot of them came out because it was just too stormy and wet and nasty for really good documenting of the landscape. I did my best, but it wasn't that good. Anyway, same story with these little fishing villages, like the hotels, for different causes, but you have this feeling of aging and disrepair and dilapidation. So there were these fishing huts on the beach that had people's boats in them or their gear for fishing, so you could drag the boat out and put it in the water, but drag it back up the beach and put it back at the boathouse. But these boathouses, some of them were like completely covered in sand to where you couldn't open the door anymore. Some of them were falling apart and rotting, even though they had stuff inside them. It was really interesting and a little sad to see, but this is typical of the resource-intensive economy of some of these rural areas in Japan, where people are aging, moving to the larger cities, and not taking up these occupations like fishing as much as they used to. One more experience I had on the way up here was on the way north here, I should say. Up is not a direction in geography. Was I went over the route I took went more or less along the coast, but a few times it goes inland and then it comes back out to the coast. One of the trips inland, I went over a little mountain range and through a tunnel and came out the other side at a high point where there was a little village and the ski area called Buda, and Buda was short for the long name of the village. And it was just the saddest thing. It was this ski area, and it was a classic tiny Japanese ski area. It was two lifts, I think the top chair I didn't see, but the bottom chair was just a twin lift, fixed speed lift. Again, very aged gear, looked like it was all built in the 1970s or 1980s. And this little tiny, very quaint, very authentic Japanese village. So wood construction on the buildings and the classic tiled roofs with the ornate tile details along the ridge lines. Very classic looking Japanese village. I would have loved to go there and just ski for a couple hours, honestly. But anyway, I pull up and it's like pouring rain, and there's not a drop of snow. There's like a couple snowballs sitting around here and there where they piled it up from a plow. And I was poking around, and these two guys came out and were like, "What are you doing?" And I just started using my translator app on my phone, and they told me a bunch about the ski area, but they said they hadn't opened this year at all. They hadn't ever gotten enough snow to open up. So, boy, the region is really suffering between not having enough snow to even open a ski area, missing tourists for maybe a coronavirus problem in China, where lots and lots of Chinese people who would have traveled for the Chinese New Year holiday just canceled their plans and stayed at home for fear of being exposed to more risk. And pile that on top of the winter season that's a little slow already because it's not summertime at the beach. And I feel like this has got to be a really hard economic blow to a lot of people in the region. So my heart was it's feeling sad for all those small business owners or ski area employees or whoever depends on tourism for the economy. It's been a really tough year for a lot of people, I suspect. Anyway, that was my trip pretty much. I'm up here now in the southern reaches of Akita. Tomorrow I'm deciding whether I'm going to go to the west out to the Oga Peninsula, which is east of Akita town, or maybe go interior to the mountains and see if I can get some skiing in. I'm not sure yet. I'll decide in the morning. That's all for now. Hope you've enjoyed traveling along with me, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.